Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We had a lot of action go on yesterday. We'll just do a quick recap before we get into our bets for today. I guess we'll start off with the Monday Night Football game with the Vikings beating the 49ers and quite the unexpected result. You had the Niners unable to really put any pressure really on Cousins at all, and you saw him really take advantage of their secondary. As a result, um, Curry, what was your thoughts on the game, and how did your best bets from yesterday go that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough day for us. Look, obviously I gave you guys the parlay that I had, which was Ayuk over his receptions, McCaffrey anytime touchdown, and the Niners on the money line. And throughout that first half, we were looking pretty sweat free. Then McCaffrey had his touchdown in the first half, and then obviously Ayuk pretty much cleared that through the first half, and all we were just sitting for, just waiting for this Niners team to wake up and just finally see what is going on. And as you pretty much mentioned it, the defensive line for that Niners team, couldn't really get anything going. And that's pretty much what they feed off defensively, getting pressure on the quarterback. They're pretty much an improved version of the Cowboys in that sense. When you have Nick Bosa and Randy Gregory and all those guys up front and Javon Kinlaw and whatnot, they're usually able to get pressure on the quarterback. And, yesterday, Kirk Cousins, as you said, he had a lot of time in the pocket. He was sitting pretty, and he was pretty much Dyson through that secondary. We obviously Jordan Addison had his big day, with one of them being that incredible steal of the interception that turned into a large 50-yard touchdown. That obviously I know that hurts you on the first half under Ari, and I know you were about to say that, and
Yeah.
that's one of the worst beats I've seen this year in terms of football. So you can't even write that. So just a bad beat Monday. It happens to the best of us. And then the under was looking pretty good throughout that game as well, but obviously the first half was not what we were hoping for. But in the end, obviously Niners could not get it done, and obviously as Seahawk fans, we were a little happy to see that. Obviously, getting a little bit closer in that division race, only about a half game separating the two teams, both two losses. Niners have one more win off of scheduling, obviously, but tough to see the Niners somehow lose back-to-back games to teams that they really shouldn't have. And all these questions come to start of, well, is it Brock Purdy? Well, is it the offensive line? Because obviously we did mention yesterday that Trent Williams was going to be doubtful, and it played a part. I mean, Brock Purdy was struggling in the pocket. He couldn't really find any sort of, I guess, composure. He was getting pressure from the left side a lot last night. We saw him make hurried throws. We saw some good throws. I'm not gonna lie. We did see some good throws from Purdy, but throughout that game, it just looked like the Vikings were just in control from start to finish. And you can credit that to anyone or whatever, but the Niners miscues as well. It looked like a repeat of what it was in Cleveland last week for the Niners team, and 5-0 and one of the hottest teams in football, now 5-2, and there's a little bit of a little bit of nerves going on in San Francisco with the Seahawks, now coming on as an emerging favorite, 4-2 in their 4-2 on the season so far, and even with the tougher schedule coming ahead, the fact that this team is starting to get a little more healthy does play a little bit of trouble for the Niners. So, but in terms of my bets, look, we were looking great. The Niners have officially made the ban list for good reason. I'm not betting anything Niners related, whether it is me fading them. But you know what? It's okay because it's early. It's still early in the season, as we said. Now we move on from week 7, move into week 8. We already have a game in a couple days on Thursday night. We'll get into that probably later in the week on Thursday for our best bets on Thursday as well. But wrapping up last night, just a surprise to see how much of a loss Trent Williams was for that offensive line. We always talk about Brock Purdy having a lot of protection in that pocket, and a lot of it is due because of Trent Williams being that brick wall that you just cannot get past. And one game without him, and it just kind of looked like Brock Purdy didn't really know where his offensive line was, and a lot of miscues and a lot of mishaps. So it kind of shows how kind of bleak the Niners are in terms of their depth, because we always talk about how great the stars are, and the guys on the field, but what about the guys in the background who, in case of the Niners get injured, what are they going to do? So I mean, I've been seeing a lot of comparisons where the Seahawks, who have been through the ringer this season in terms of injuries so far, are still 4-2, and that kind of shows true to how deep the Seattle team runs. So Niners looking a little concerning as we get into the later weeks, but big win for the Vikings at home to kind of at least save their playoff hopes for now in a very, very weak NFC North division.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how the Niners secondary looked, and now, right, I believe it's their last game before the bye. They get the Bengals, which is obviously another tough, a better passing offense than the Vikings were. So if you go from 5-0 to 5-3 going into your bye, obviously a lot different. But if they can get back on track and go at 6-2, it's a lot different than 5-3. Go into your bye, given the momentum and all of that. So we'll see if they can rebound or not. So then we'll go into the MLB games from last night. We'll start off with the series that ended, and that was the Rangers beating the Astros. I know your lean was the Rangers. My lean was the under. I didn't bet that, but that was my lean. But I mean, the Rangers just got to Javier early. I think he got one out before he was taken out. 3 runs, and the Astros get 1 run back in the bottom of the first. You think that they maybe could squeak their way back into the game, but then the Rangers kept adding on, and Houston couldn't score again for a while, and this game was over by like the 5th or 6th inning. What was your takeaway from this game and I guess the series overall?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the trends and I leaned Rangers money line just because of that, and it pretty much worked out. And I even said, in a game where the Rangers are going to win, the over needs to hit, and obviously that over did hit. So I mean, that was great to see 2-2 go hand in hand. But, the Astros just could not stop Adolis Garcia. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, I didn't watch much of this series due to personal reasons and personal influence. But from what I did see, it kind of just looked like the Adolis Garcia show. It looked like the Astros bats were like the Seattle Mariners of last year, just not really showing up what really mattered. And, it was kind of surprising to see Houston fall out so in an emphatic statement from the Rangers. It wasn't even like Houston was trying to compete in that game. It looked like it was just all Rangers from the first pitch. We saw Corey Seager hit that 440-foot bomb to right field, and from that moment, it pretty much was over. I mean, it just was all Texas, all game, and pretty much it's funny enough, obviously, every road team as we talked about yesterday in the trends, every road team in the game has won this series. Obviously we talked about Texas winning 4 in Houston and then obviously losing 3 at home. But, this Texas team could, if they have to play Philly, obviously with game 7 today, if they have to play Philly, that could be a really interesting series to see how, how this Rangers team will be doing in a really hostile environment in Citizens Bank, at the bank. If the Phillies do survive in Game 7 today, obviously, it would be a lot more fun to see a Rangers Diamondback series. 2 teams, after last year who had really, really bad years, didn't even make the playoffs, weren't even sniffing the playoffs, to now being in the World Series would be a really fun story. But with the Astros, it's very surprising to see just how, all year they were a team to look out for because they got Jose Abreu, and it was like the final. It's like the Avengers Infinity Stone, like the last crystal. They had all the pieces, and now they just got a Jose Abreu, and they went backwards, and they didn't even make it to the World Series. And then obviously we just found out after the game that Dusty Baker has informed the team that he is retiring. So that raises some more questions. What is the managerial system of Houston going to look like next year? I mean, I don't know what the free agency situation is for most of that team. I know some guys are on 1-year deals, or if not, potentially returning. We'll see, but this could be, the sign of a closing window in Houston, maybe. I mean, Houston has been running, whether it's the AL West, the AL pennant, whatever you want to call it, the American League. baseball, whatever you want to call it. They've been running this league since 2017, and look, it's time for them to get out of the way. I mean, it's time for them to move. And obviously, it's Texas that's up there, but I'm glad to see that there's a new team coming from the American League that does not start with Houston, and unfortunately, it's the Rangers. But in terms of how the Rangers just went from zero to hero so quick, it kind of just shows you that maybe buying does help, or maybe investing in the talent that is out there in free agency, can produce you, some rings, and not just 54% of the time. So, going on from that, pretty much, Houston, we may have some problems. I mean, I don't know what the future is. I don't going to start in terms of their managerial hunt for who's next potentially. But I mean, Dusty Baker, he is one of a. First off, I just want to credit to Dusty Baker. He's one hell of a manager. He's been one of the more fun managers. Unfortunately, he had to coach one of the most unlikable teams in the Major League Baseball right now. But it was hard to hate Dusty Baker, and had a great career. He got his ring with Houston, and now he can ride off into the sunset. Unfortunately, after that horrible ALCS Game 7 loss. But well, here we are now, and Texas will be either, I believe, going to Philly. I don't know how the
No, they're hosting whoever they're hosting.
Oh, that's right.
They have
that's
the
right.
advantage. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot the AL has the home field advantage, so they'll be awaiting the winner of today's game that we're going to get to in a little bit. But wrapping up from last night, just Texas has one of the more you can arguably say Texas has the scariest lineup in the American League now, just because of how they have pretty much ran through all these teams that no one expected them to beat. We talk about Tampa Bay in the first round, and how obviously a lot of people had the Rangers because just how depleted depleted Tampa Bay was in terms of their pitching, and obviously with the Wander Franco situation, and then obviously the Baltimore Orioles, and with their youth and their inexperience, they didn't really have much to play for. And then obviously the one test that everyone was hoping, not everyone was hoping, but the Rangers were hoping for, and that was the Houston Astros, a team that they can actually not only say that they've competed with in the division, but a team that has competed at the big stage, and they won in 7 games, winning all of them on the road. So you got to give credit where it's due for Texas. Incredible series for them to be able to go into Houston and win 4. That's never easy. But then again, Houston, did not have the greatest home winning percentage on the year, so maybe that played a factor into it. And then for the Houston Astros, it's just maybe seeing what's next for them. Obviously, you brought in a lot of help, guys like Justin Verlander who were on trade deals, and you brought in Abreu on I believe it was a 3-year deals, and he underperformed he underperformed. So maybe there's questions at first base, and all that stuff, and maybe the pitching as well, because that was the ultimate thing that kind of let them down in the end. So, but at the end of the day, the Battle of Texas is finally over. Thank God. I'm sick of it. Let's just move on to the World Series, and hopefully someone out of the National League can win it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a stat. I think it was since 2016. It's the first time that neither the Astros or the Dodgers are in the World Series, which is a pretty crazy to think about. But so I guess now we'll move on to the NLCS, which has its Game 7 today. I talked about the under yesterday, and it was looking scary after 4 runs in the second inning. The Diamondbacks jumped on Aaron Nola. I think it was what Pham and Gurriel had the back-to-back home runs, and then they had the RBI double by Longoria.
Yeah, it was Longoria.
Longoria. And then credit to Merrill Kelly after getting hit hard in his first start in Philly. It was looking a bit shaky in the first inning when he was pitching around Schwarber and Harper, and he walked both of them. And he got out of that, and then he delivered 5 strong innings, 1-run innings, and you saw even in the dugout that he wanted to go one more inning, but they just let him go 5. But now we have Game 7 tonight. it's a rematch of, it was game 3, I believe, between Fat and Suarez. The Diamondbacks won that game 2-1, and what was a pitcher's duel, both Fat and Suarez dealt, and both of them pretty much all playoffs have pitched really well. Brandon Fat in his first start against the Brewers was a little bit shaky, but he's thrown 10 shutout against the Phillies and Dodgers in his last 2 starts. And then Suarez in the playoffs has 14 innings, 1 run allowed. So both of them have pitched really, really well. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here with the over-under at 8, which I'll pull up now so that we can have that on the screen. But Korea, what's kind of your early lean in this game in this game 7?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to talk about yesterday's game 6 and how much fun of a game 6 that was. For Diamondbacks. Obviously, you mentioned, kind of starting off with Tommy Pham and Lourdes Gurriel with the back-to-back 400-foot bombs off of Aaron Nola. And, Aaron Nola throughout the regular season has been the Aaron Nola we saw yesterday. And that was, are we going to get the confident Nola who can go 6 innings and, 2-hit ball, or are we going to get the Aaron Nola that gets blown up in the first couple of innings? And that's exactly what we got. Longoria with that double as well. And then later innings, even with the Phillies countering that back on their own with a run, later on, Marte with that triple down the right field line, and then that RBI single up the middle to kind of, I guess, silence the game. He had a big game as well. So, yesterday was obviously, winner go home, and in a game like that, the Diamondbacks just wanted it more. The Phillies obviously, yes, they did want it, but the Diamondbacks wanted that game more, and that was evident yesterday. It was a battle of who wants it more, and the Diamondbacks wanted that game 6, that game 6 more. You talk about Merrill Kelly and his amazing bounce back performance. It was a revenge game for him after he got lit up at the bank. The last time we talked about him, 4 runs coming in, but obviously just a bad day for the Diamondbacks. Just offensively could not get to Nola, but reverse of what happened yesterday. So it was great to see, Diamondbacks have a little more fight and force another game 7. We were talking about, probably both of these series ending in 6 at home, just because of, how both of these teams historically have done at home. But here we go again with another game 7, and, it's equal playing field. Like, winner moves on, loser goes home. It's not no more, in terms of strategy or anything like, and especially in baseball, because you're only playing one game and it's 9 innings. You got to strategize, pitching matchups and all that stuff. So I expect both of these guys to be on short leashes tonight. I would probably expect, assuming that's pretty much going to go into what tonight is. I would expect short leashes from both Fott and Suarez, especially Fott, because he's in a really tough position. I mean, we've always talked about how he's a rookie and he's obviously making his, pretty much his first start at the bank, which is, I mean, you want to talk about pressure. You got to go to Philly for a game 7 in the NLCS, winner go home, and you're depending on a rookie to start. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a bad decision, but it's a tough decision because you would rather have probably one of your veteran guys, but when the veteran guys aren't showing up, you got to depend on the rookies. So if I was to choose an early lean, I do like the Phillies just because of the experience. All these guys pretty much being in that position in a game 7, and the Phillies at home. We've always talked about it. Even though they did lose yesterday, their bats just did not show up, and I don't expect them to not show up back-to-back games, especially in a game where obviously they have to win. And so I do lean the Phillies, obviously, at minus 175. It's not the greatest value, like pretty much just like how it was yesterday. And look what happened. It was already at minus 185 when we recorded. And who won? Exactly. So my leans are the over, as well as, you mentioned yesterday, the under was a little bit sweaty throughout that first few innings we talked about. It was a very high scoring game so far for the Diamondbacks, and then throughout the later innings, the bullpens kind of just did their thing and closed it out for the win for the Diamondbacks, and the under did hit, which was only at 6. So today, I do expect this game to go over. Like I said, both of these guys have short leases probably, and in a winner go home game where the Philly bats are going to show up because They didn't show up yesterday. I expect the Diamondbacks to at least put up a little bit of a fight as well. But I do lean the Phillies at home. If I had to pick another one, I do like the Diamondbacks plus 1.5 on the run line. I don't think the Diamondbacks lose this game by 3 or more. I think this is going to be like one of those classic Game 7s where it's going to come down to maybe whether it's a bottom of the 8th game leading run or that sends Philly to the World Series or whatever, and they close out on the top of the 9th or whatever happens. I do think the Diamondbacks do cover that 1.5 run line. But my early leans are the over. I do think this is going to be one of the more higher scoring games of the series from both sides. A very competitive, fun Game 7 in the bank. But I do lean. If I had to pick a lean, I do pick Philly. But at minus 175, it's not even worth taking just because yesterday it was at minus 185 and it just grew and grew, and then we saw what happened. So I do lean the Phillies, but I also am going to take the over 8 tonight. I do think that's a great play, just in terms of these guys pretty much having short leashes, and especially for both bullpens not really being, I guess, well used or properly used, just because of how much, how many runs have gone from both sides. Obviously, they were expecting Nola to go a lot longer, so they had to use a lot more bullpen. And then obviously for the Diamondbacks, they've had games where it was Merrill Kelly last time they were in the bank. When he put up 4 runs and they had to go through all of their bullpen, and then Philly scored 10. So it's been a very heavily used bullpen from both sides, and I expect that today, even with the bullpens being very tired. That kind of also plays for the over. I do like the over 8 in this spot, but my leans are Philly on the money line or the Diamondbacks plus 1.5. Ari?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, with Fott, because, he dominated in Game 3, but, pitching at home at Chase Field is a lot different than pitching, at the bank in Philly. So it'll be interesting to see, kind of how he responds. I mean, it was really the last month of the season that he pitched really, really well, after a rough start. I think he got sent, I think, down multiple times during the season, back on AAA and, back up to the majors. And he responded, well late in the season and so far in the playoffs. So that's why he is getting the start, in this game. And both bullpens were used, a decent amount yesterday, but it's going to be, obviously all hands on deck. I saw Zach Wheeler could be available out of the bullpen tonight for the Phillies. Obviously it's a Game 7, win or go home. So I guess everything goes pretty much, and maybe that's why they took out Merrill Kelly. Possibly one inning early yesterday. Maybe we see him, throw 1 inning tonight potentially. I have a hard time going with the full game under, even though that's my slight lean. But I think first 5 under is kind of my lean here, and then kind of seeing more runs kind of late in the game. I think we might see a little bit more tense from both lineups kind of early. I guess if the full game over is at 8, with the first 5 under, you can get under 4.5 at minus 125. That would probably be where I would go here. First 5 under 4.5 at minus 125, and then potentially we see more runs, kind of in the later innings. So that's kind of my lean here. I think it hopefully will be, a close game. I don't really see, like you said, I don't really see any real value with the Phillies money line here at minus 175, just because of, the difference of what one game can make, obviously. So I think the first 5 under 4.5 is going to be my kind of play of the game here in this game. And hopefully it's a close game throughout, and it's, hopefully it's a more intense Game 7 than what we got yesterday, with the Rangers and Astros.
Yeah, I do have some breaking news. Booking with Trent has confirmed that he is booking on the Phillies money line. So for all you Diamondback fans out there, that is a positive sight to see. But I do. Jokes aside, I do agree with you, Ari. I feel like for the first 5, I think it's going to be very low scoring. It's going to be very who's going to let the first run go, and I feel like after that first run comes, it's going to be a total bloodbath, pretty much, in terms of just all these runs coming, and that's why I do kind of like that the full game over. But I do like the first 5 under as well. I feel like most of those runs are going to come from the bullpen game, and but it also depends on which Brandon Pfaadt we're going to get, at the bank? Are we going to get the Pfaadt that, pitched in game 3 and, put up 8 Ks and, was pretty much dealing against this Phillies team? Or are we going to get the one who has struggled on the road and was sent down multiple times? And then same for Ranger Suarez. I mean, Suarez was pretty much cooking that Diamondbacks lineup. He put up 7 plus Ks as well. Which one are we going to get? Are we going to get the one who was just like that? Or are we going to get, Ranger Suarez, who has struggled sometimes against righty batters? And I do think that this over 8 is pretty nice. There is a little bit of push potential there, but at the same time, I just think that there's going to be a lot of runs scored. I feel like this could end maybe like a 5-4, maybe like a 6-5 ball game at the end, just because of how many of those runs are going to come through the later innings. And then I didn't even think about it, but you were right about, maybe potentially, Arizona pulling Merrill Kelly early because of this game 7 spot where, you may need to pitch him. And you already talked about Zach Wheeler potentially being available today. And that's how it is in these game 7 spots. Any pitcher is available. And, it can be any matchup at any time. And that's the unpredictability with this. And, runs can come from anywhere. And, that's why I would tend to stay away from the full game under, just because, you're probably going to get a Corbin Carroll versus and maybe a Zach Wheeler in the bottom of the 8th. And then maybe in the top of the 8th and then the top of the 9th, you'll get a Ketel Marte versus a Craig Kimbrel. It's like you can't predict, who's going to be pitching the next inning in those kind of spots. So my early guess would be the over, just because, in those kind of unpredictability games, you kind of lean toward the over, just because, with the unders, you kind of, it's tend to be a little scary. But in terms of the first 5, I do like that under as well. I feel like Pfaadt and Suarez can handle it under 4.5 throughout the first 5 to not allow 5 runs to come in. And, most of those runs coming in the latter half of the game. But like I said, my strongest leans right now are the Phillies, and then obviously the Diamondbacks covering the 1.5 run line. But, obviously, Ari, this is not the only sport going on today. We welcome a return of a loved sport through many NBA fans, obviously. The NBA returns for the first time since the Denver Nuggets defeated the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals last year. 2 games on the slate. We have pretty much rivalry games, you can kind of call them. The Lakers, the team that got swept by the Nuggets, going on the road to start the season, trying to ruin the ring night for Denver as they tip off the season. And then a little bit of a homer one here. My boys, my Golden State Warriors, we host the Phoenix Suns to wrap it up. Obviously, a little bit of personal animosity. Chris Paul, new Warrior, facing his former team in Phoenix on the first night, which can't even write that. But Ari, look, we only have 2 games on, so there's very, very limited, very limited information. Obviously, we do know big news coming out this morning that Bradley Beal is not going to be playing tonight for the Suns. They're trying to work him in slowly into the lineup, and that's understandable. We obviously know for the Warriors that Draymond Green is also out. So, 2 key guys on both of those teams out. But, focusing on first the Lakers and Nuggets game, do you have a side in this in terms of maybe a spread total? Who do you have winning this game potentially? Or what do you like from that first game to tip off the season between the Lakers and Nuggets, Ari?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's always tough at the first game of the season, because it's a new year and a lot, changes in the offseason. But, I mean, with the Lakers and Nuggets, it's kind of mostly the same teams that they're bringing back as last year. For the most part, they don't really have any huge, new pieces. I mean, the Lakers signed, like Torian Prince, who may start tonight with Vanderbilt out. I don't know if it'll be him or Rui in the lineup, but, I mean, the Nuggets – for the most part, bringing back the same team that they won the finals last year with. So, while for the most part it's tough in game 1 with a lot of teams that have new players, new changes, and all of that, these 2 teams, are bringing back the majority of the key cores that they had last year. And, these 2 teams met in the playoffs last year. 3 of the games went under, and that's kind of my lean here is the under. I mean, the Lakers, with the deadline that the last year that they made with trading for a handful of new players, they really improved their defense by quite a bit, over the second half of that season, the latter part of the season after the deadline. And, and also game one, sometimes first actual game back, not preseason, can be some rust, of course. So I think, even more so than the full game under for me is the first half under is, potentially some rest early in the first half. And then, maybe the second half, they kind of get back on track a little bit. I haven't looked exactly what the first half is, but first half under 116.5 is kind of my strongest kind of lean here in the Lakers Nuggets game at minus 105. I don't have a huge kind of lean on the side here. Nuggets are currently a 5-point favorite. So I think I'm going to stay off, money line or, spread. I think I'm going to go with the first half under in this game as my play.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid play. I mean, you mentioned it last year in that Western Conference Finals matchup. Most of those games of the four went under in the sweep, as you mentioned. Just very, whether it is, and obviously this game is in Denver, so a little bit of one. Obviously, the altitude does play a factor. Did play a factor last year, and now obviously after a long off season, the Lakers got to go back to the place where they, where the season pretty much ended. And I feel like the under is definitely a strong play as well. So I do like the under, whether it is the full first half. The second half, I'm a little hesitant on, just because, as you mentioned, it takes a little bit of time for these guys. It's the first game of the season, and it takes a lot of time for these guys to get back into, whether it's like game rhythms or atmosphere or whatever. It takes a little bit of time for that. So I do like the first half under in this game. If I had to pick a side, I do like Denver on the money line. Yes, it's super juice. You can parlay it with something else, but I just don't see Denver losing this game at home. And yes, even though the Lakers, have come in with, with all the hoopla about, we're getting our lick back and all that nonsense. Like, you mentioned both of these teams really did not lose anyone significant in this game, but on top of that, for both teams, Denver has just always had this team's number, right? So if I was to do a separate play, I would do the Nuggets -5. That line has been pretty stagnant, all week, and that has not moved, and that's growing. I think that's at -112. Yeah, -112 in favor of the Nuggets to cover that -5. I do think the Nuggets will win by 5. I just feel like, with Jokic coming back, not coming back, but just back home in the United States with Murray and to all the guys coming back, and then even though they did lose Bruce Brown, I still feel like they have enough to do what it is to just beat the Lakers at home by 5. Even though this is a revenge game for the Lakers, it is ring night, and it's hard to see a team not lose on ring night. So if I did have to lean, I do like the Nuggets. I do like the Nuggets on the money line, but I'm not going to personally place that because that's just way too juiced. So I do like the Nuggets -5. I also do like. I'm also potentially going to place the first half under. I think that's a stronger play. But those are my two favorite in terms of sides or totals or whatever. I do like the Nuggets on the money line or potentially minus more, but then I also like the first half under. In terms of player props, obviously Ari, as he said yesterday, he's not the greatest in player props, but for me, I do like the player props. So we're gonna go start with points, and I do like Aaron Gordon. I don't know why I said Austin. I like his under today. I do like his under is at 15.5. I do like his under today.
It's at 13.5.
Oh, 13. Oh, wow. Went down. Oh, that's tough. See, the thing with these NBA lines, they're so tough to read. I did like the under 15.5, but obviously it already went down to 13.5. So Vegas obviously knows something's going to go happen. But, might actually, thank God it's right under it. Anthony Davis. I did like his over 23.5 tonight. I feel like even though he's one of those players where it's always hit or miss, Anthony Davis, usually when he is fully healthy, he is one of the best in terms of rim protectors, offensive board collectors, just one of the best players inside the paint. And, he definitely, I believe he got this in 2 out of 4 games where he actually performed well. against the Nuggets last year in that Western Conference Finals. So I do like 23.5 there. We go to, excuse me, I had it written down, excuse me. We go over to 3-pointers made. I do like Jokic today. I do like him to hit a three. I believe what his line is. Yeah, his line is at -220. So that's why I'm saying maybe parlay Nikola Jokic to hit a three in the Denver money line. Maybe a little same game parlay. I do like that. Jokic, I mean, it's hard to say, oh my God, all he needs to do is make a three. But I mean, obviously we see how Nikola Jokic plays the game of basketball. Just fluid motion, likes to get inside and do his little trick shot or his little fadeaway if he needs to. So he can pull up from three once in case he does need to. So I do like him to at least hit one 3-pointer tonight as well. And then finally, in terms of assists, I do like Nikola Jokic over 9.5 assists as well. I don't know what his line is at on DraftKings right now, but when I saw it was at 9.5.
Plus money.
I know there's a little bit of plus money there, but I do think that the Nuggets team is getting more people involved because obviously they know I feel like the Lakers obviously, one, have already had a pretty solid defense, and two, they're definitely going to be double guarding Nikola Jokic almost all game because they know how good of a player he is. Obviously, we've seen it throughout his MVP reigns and all of that. And, this guy almost is a walking triple-double pretty much. And, I like him to get 10 assists today against the Lakers. He's going to be passing the ball a lot. I feel like, finding his guys, Jamal Murray, maybe Aaron Gordon, maybe even a little KCP action. Who knows? And I know it's definitely I know it's not going to be Mr. Pass the Rock himself right above him, Michael Porter Jr. So Nicola's going to be going to him. So that's why I kind of like Nikola over at plus 105. There's a little bit of plus money on there, but I do like it at that plus 105. It's not too juiced, but at the same time, it's very achievable for Nikola Jokic. And, I feel like he'll definitely have one of those games to kind of start the season where he just takes it to a next level. So those are kind of my three favorite props tonight as well. So so to recap quickly, it's Nikola Jokic over 9.5 assists. I do like him to make 1 3. And then I do like Anthony Davis over 23.5 points. I would have liked Aaron Gordon under 15.5, but, his line did go down. So obviously, whether it's the public or Vegas, whoever it is that's pushing that line down, or just, the NBA lines, they always fluctuate throughout the day. I would avoid Aaron Gordon if it went below 14, and obviously it did go below 14. So, but I would stick with Anthony Davis, and then obviously the two Nikola Jokic props I have, as already put up right there. Jokic to have 1 3. I like Davis to have 23.5 points over, and then a little bit of juice on that. A little bit of not juice, but a little bit of a plus money on that last one. Jokic over 9.5 assists at plus 105, and then obviously on top of that, as I already mentioned, I do like in terms of total sides, the money line. I do like the under first half, and then Denver -5, and then Denver on the money line. And now we're going to get into the nightcap. This game is the one I'm personally looking forward to the most with personal influence. The Warriors and Suns. This game pretty much opened up as a pick'em, obviously with both sides, with personal animosity and not only, but just, in terms of the competitive nature from both teams. The Suns, a very, very good team that just got better with Bradley Beal in the offseason with that trade. But obviously, no Bradley Beal tonight. So it's going to be a very familiar Suns team that the Warriors have faced in the past, with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, healthy now for the first time. And, just all the guys that they have in Phoenix after all the trades they made. And, they brought in Yusuf Nurkic from Portland after they traded away Aiden. And then you have on the other side, you have the Warriors, who didn't really make that many offseason moves, but, they made the one that they really needed to make. They brought back Draymond. They are questioning Clay. They've developed the bench. Obviously, the big one was getting rid of Jordan Poole for that trade to bring in Chris Paul. And, a lot of people have been questioning, why the Warriors traded someone so young for obviously someone who's in their late 30s, almost going to retire. And, there's so many questions and I'll let them have their opinions. But, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a great game. As I said, the Warriors, I think this game opened as a pick'em. And then the Warriors obviously bumped up, I think today, to 3-point favorites after the Bradley Beal news came out this morning. But, the line has moved down now to 2.5 money lines. Warriors are -142. Suns currently right now are +120. Over under currently at 234. Ari, what do you like in this matchup between whether it's a spread, total, money line? What do you like in this nightcap to open the NBA season?
Yeah, I think like you said, Beal was ruled out, and that's what the line move was. I saw it as high as 3.5 at one point, and I guess now it's back down to 2.5 in favor of the Warriors. And yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see the new dynamic in Phoenix. Obviously, we're not gonna get the full dynamic with Beal out, obviously, but still with Durant, Booker, and then now they swapped Ayton for Nurkic down low, so obviously that's a new piece for the team. And then the Warriors, like you said, it's most other than bringing in Chris Paul, it's mostly the same team. Other than Paul for Poole, it's the same overall core. Other than that, and I like the Warriors to take care of business tonight and cover and win by 3+, cover the 2.5. I think if Beal was playing, maybe my lean would be a little bit different, but obviously then the line would have been a pick 'em like it was before. But I think the Warriors in front of, obviously it's going to be a sold out, huge crowd, loud crowd, in the Warriors arena. I think that the Warriors take care of business and cover the 2.5 spread at home.
Yeah, I mean, you know why I have this jersey on, Ari. There is a reason as to why I am wearing my Warriors jersey. Because I'm going with the I'm just kidding. I'm going with the Warriors, obviously. I feel like they're definitely going to take care of business at home, as you mentioned. Even without Draymond, I feel like this team definitely just knows how to win at home. Whether it is the Suns, whoever comes in, the Warriors at the Chase Center, are one of the most scarier teams to play because they just know how to play better at home. And obviously, we've seen the magic of Steph Curry. We've seen what Kevin Durant can do. We've seen what Devin Booker do. We've seen what both of these guys all these guys on both teams can do. I'm excited to see what the new pieces can do. I'm excited to see how the Warriors are going to introduce CP3. I'm excited to see how Nurkic can play down low, potentially defensively, to be a better defender instead of Ayton, who was more of an offensive-minded guy instead of not really known for his defense. But as well, I do lean the Warriors -2.5 at home. I feel like the home court advantage is just going to play a factor. I do like the Warriors on the money line as well. I think the Warriors win this by 3. Like you said, if Bradley Beal was playing tonight, then I may have leaned a different way. I'm never against my Warriors, but I would have maybe taken the Warriors maybe to cover if they were an underdog, because I think Phoenix was opening up as a little bit of a slight favorite earlier in the week, but then I moved down to a pick 'em, and then now obviously with Bradley Beal's health being revealed earlier today, we all know that the Warriors have now become the favorites, and because of that, I do like the Warriors to just take care of business, win at home. I don't really like a total in this game, just because kind of like the last game, we didn't really get to see that many matchups of these two, unlike the Lakers and Nuggets, who pretty much we just saw in the Western Conference Finals. We haven't really seen a Warriors-Suns game in a little while, whether that's a regular season or potential postseason series or whatever it be, whomever. But in this game, I do like the Warriors at home at -142. I also like the 2.5 at -110. I feel like this is just plain and simple. The Warriors just take care of business at home. I feel like Curry's gonna pretty much just take care of business. In terms of a player prop, I don't really have much. I didn't really like that much stuff from this game. And obviously, there was a lot of question with Bradley Beal's health, so that also played a big role in terms of everything. The only thing I really liked was Chris Paul's points. That's pretty much the only thing I liked. I did like his under at 12.5. I just think he's going to be more of a passer and, kind of introducing himself into the offense. I don't think they're going to immediately look to him to be a big scorer today. He's always kind of taking on that new role of being a developmental leader off the bench, but also he's going to be in the lineup. But, at the same time, there's so many mouths to feed on that Warriors. Whether it's Klay Thompson, whether it's Kuminga, who's going to be coming off the bench, whether it's obviously Stephen Curry, Kevon Looney down low, who's a rebound magnet, obviously Andrew Wiggins, who has been big in clutch times. I really just don't really see a fit for Chris Paul to get over 13 points. I just feel like he even though it is against his former team, I feel like he'll definitely fill up the stat sheet in what he does more, and that's just passing the ball, finding those open lanes, being a true leader that he is. But I will take his under 12.5 points today. I think that that line is pretty not. I do think that's a good line for him. I have seen it go up and down a little bit. I saw it maybe I think it was at 13 for a little bit with significant juice on the under, and then it went down to 12, and then I saw it 11 go up, and then now at 12. I do like it at 12. I'm taking the under. I just feel like Chris Paul, and not even in terms of a game script, but I just feel like in terms of how this game is going to go, he's going to be definitely more of a passer, kind of getting in lanes, kind of running the offense, when in those crucial off minutes for whether it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, or many of those guards who are getting some rest. So tonight I do like Chris Paul as a player prop under 12.5 points, but my leans are the same as Ari's for this game. I like the Warriors -2.5 and on the money line.
Yep, so we'll have NBA opening night tonight, 2 games, and I think tomorrow is a whole bunch of games, so we'll have a whole lot more to choose from, obviously tomorrow. So I think that will do it for today. We'll catch you up tomorrow where we'll recap what we went over today, and then, by then we'll have a World Series matchup finalized as well as a whole slate of NBA games. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you all on the next episode.